still got it. Yeah, I still got it. It hasn't gone anywhere. There's just been nothing to film for it, so I haven't bothered. Until now. I've just been using it as a daily, and it's been doing great. Apart from one thing, which hopefully today we're gonna fix. Alright, now that is that out of the way, we can see what we're dealing with. The thing that we've got to replace is behind the oil filter housing. So this is going to be a bit of a long day. So the problems that I've got with this car at the moment is that the car struggles to start on a cold morning, and it also hesitates at around 3 or 4k RPM when I'm booting it. Finally got something to film. I think this is quite a common thing where the car hesitates at around 3k. I showed it in the last video that this car was in. And it's not fun. It completely ruins the fun of the car because it's like you're putting your foot on and off the throttle when you're not. I don't drive this thing fast anymore. I guess I'm saving fuel, but ruins the fun, doesn't it? So that's the problem. And it also comes up with the code, I think it's P0321, which is the engine speed sensor. So it's one of these sensors down in the engine block, and it's behind the oil filter housing. So I'm going to be doing an oil change, oil filter change, and a coolant change, because I believe underneath the filter housing is the oil cooler, which is where coolant and oil can mix. So if we're taking that off, we've got to drain all the coolant and oil. It's going to be fun. It's not actually going to be fun. I'm really not looking forward to doing this. I was hoping it's going to be a nice simple thing to change, but of course everything is being obstructed by everything. So I'm going to go ahead and make a start. It's 1 o'clock at the moment. Let's drain the oil and then let's drain the coolant. Okay, so it's starting to piss it down, so I'm going to try and walk you through from here what we've got to do. Now, I don't actually know 100% because there's hardly any guides online of this. From what I can gather, all we want to do is get this out of the way. I don't think I'm going to be undoing these hard metal pipes. I'm thinking I'm just going to be doing the bolts that are visible, and then see what happens.
20 minutes later.
Alright, so here is where we're at. I've had to undo a bolt down here, which is from the oil dipstick. We're gonna have to unplug a plug down there. Very hard to see, even I can barely see it just because it's so dark. And then right next to that, I believe, is the turbo oil pressure line, something like that anyway. But we've got to undo both of them. So the plug is obviously easy, but the oil line, we're gonna have to get a spanner in there and just try and slowly undo it. Okay, 17mm spanner for the oil line. I think I've just cracked it loose enough to be able to now do it with my hand. It's where that metal line goes down into there. Okay, I'm gonna go get a rag because it is coming loose and I think a load of oil is gonna come out. You're gonna have to take my word on it, but it is out. You just can't see it. Okay, and now there's 4 bolts holding the filter housing onto the engine. And I can see 2 of them. I'm not too sure where the other 2 are. I think all 4 bolts are 10mm, so we're just gonna crack these off. They are done in tight, really tight. Oh hey! You've caught me learning about diesel engine fundamentals on Skillshare. So a huge thank you to Skillshare for sponsoring today's video. Skillshare is an online learning community where you can find new skills and develop existing passions. I'm currently learning more about diesel engines, Duffy's currently learning more about food, but Skillshare has a lot more to offer, from mechanical engineering things. You've got some sketching classes and video editing classes as well if you want to up your Instagram game. Learn how to edit videos on your car. The videos have no ads and they're always adding premium classes, so there's no limit to what you can learn. The class I'm currently in is by Savri and it's all about mechanical engineering. So if any of this interests you, the first 1,000 subscribers to click the link in the description will get a free trial of Skillshare Premium where you can learn and expand your creativity. Duff, I think we should get you a class on learning about self-defense because you're clearly worried that another cat is currently in the garden. Whilst I continue learning about diesel engines, let's get you back on track to learning about changing a crank position sensor. Let's get back to the video. You join me again about an hour later because this isn't too easy, is it, Duff? You want to tell him what we've done? Yep. Near enough, mate. Well done. So the problem is this last bolt on the bottom right hand side of the filter housing, there's like no room to get to it. So in the end what I've done is remove the two coolant hoses coming out of the oil cooler, which I'll show you now, and got the smallest size socket and wrench that I can to fit it in between the two pipes. Once these bolts are out, the whole thing should come off and we can finally find the sensor, which is what this whole thing is all for. Okay, this is going to be a very tight squeeze. I don't know how I'm going to get this out. Oh my god, here it is. Come on, you get out of there. There it is. Oh, you know, yep, there's still coolant in there. This has just snapped off something. I think this is the plug I undone. We'll get to that another time. Let's focus on this one sensor first. This is probably one of the tightest jobs I've ever done. So now that the oil filter housing is off, that's where the plug is. But to even see that, you have to remove that. And to get that plug out, you have to push it in and pull it out from the edge. So basically you need two hands to do that. You have to push the center in and pull the outside out. Inside there is a tiny Allen key. That's what we got to get at now. This is the one that we're replacing it with. You can kind of imagine how far in this sensor goes. Okay, here we go, let's do it. It's a 4mm Allen key. Let's see if this is even going to be long enough.
2 hours later.
I've done it. We got it out. Halford's ball end Allen keys are rubbish. I had to borrow Ian's, Lucy's dad, to get the proper angle because you can't get a dead straight angle into it. Had to get one that can do it like that. It's exactly the same. I don't know what causes these to fail, whether it's any shorter or longer. Anyway, let's change this. So there it is, that's where it sits. The new plug is in, where the white plug you can see, that's the new one. And finally we can start putting things back together. I think I'm gonna try and clean up the old plug because I had a bit of gunk on it. Make sure that once this plug is plugged back in, that it is actually plugged in, because apparently these work loose and then all of a sudden your engine cuts out because it's not actually plugged in. Now my other problem is that this sensor is now broken. Whatever sensor it is, snapped right off. A few things I've learned while working on this car. A job is always going to be longer than you think. You need more cardboard to mop up oil, and oil pressure sensors are really brittle. It's the following Monday and I have been to the store to get what I need. I don't really know how well I explained it, but basically I snapped this sensor somehow. So I can now finally replace that, put that back on, put the new oil filter in the housing, put the new gasket in place, bolt everything back up, and hopefully have a working car for the morning. This is the sensor that I somehow snapped. No idea how that happened. I kind of just scared myself a bit. I thought that was it, but that's just a cover to screw it in. Let's get you back on the road. That's our target. Got the new gasket. It's going to sit in there like that. Going to get the housing back on now. Alright guys, it is getting dark. This is a horrible job. I've been out here. I was just trying to line up the gasket with the bolts for a long time, and I am gonna put all this stuff back together. I think all I've got to put back together, 2 coolant hoses and a couple of plugs and the oil line from the turbo. And I've got to put the EGR back together, put the coolant hose back on, put the sump plug on, can't forget that, and then fill all the fluids back up, and I'll probably catch up with you guys tomorrow with how it's doing.
3 days later.
Alright, after doing all that work, the car itself is fine. Runs perfectly fine. No oil leaking, no coolant leaking, thankfully. I've put everything back together in the right place, but it's still doing exactly the same thing as it was. The reason I thought it would have been that sensor is because people have reported it online. It's struggling to start, and I even had the code for it. It came up with that code, and one of the first answers was that it was the crank position sensor. So I replaced that. I tried to clean up the wires, as you saw. The first start I did, it struggled for the first time, but I thought, you know, we'll give it the benefit of the doubt because it was the first start, so it could have just been the battery was a bit low. So the first day it started up second time, second day started up first time, third day started up first time, but today when I went to start it, this happened. So essentially nothing's changed, and on the outside of things it looks like the sensor wasn't at fault. I'll be honest though, the car does seem to drive smoother. Changing gears seems smoother. I don't know if that's just a placebo effect, but it seems like the car runs smoother. It's easier to get the biting point for some reason. I don't know why. I don't know if that's just because it's in my head. Might have even been because I was driving that for a few days, so I got used to that and went back to this and it was bit more luxurious. I don't know. However, I do have one more option, and that is going to be replacing the fuel filter. This is my last hope. I know a couple of people have said that it could be this. It's struggling to start up on the first turn on its first day, and then starting up fine for the rest of the day. It doesn't really make sense, but people seem to suggest it, so we'll give it a go. We'll change it and we'll see what happens. It also feels like there's no tutorials online on how to change a fuel filter for this car. That was the wrong filter. Hopefully this one's the right one. Said it was for an Audi A4 2.0 TDI, and it wasn't, but this one looks like the correct one. First thing I'm going to do is pull the fuse for the fuel pump, start the car so that it uses all the fuel that it has in the wiring and tubing, so hopefully it doesn't spray out when I take the tubes off and the hoses. So I'm hoping it's this. Three, two, one. Three, two, one. There we go. Okay, so the fuel filter is in here, and to get this off you need to undo a little bolt down here just so the squeeziness isn't there anymore. I know I'm talking so technical right now. There's a little like Mickey Mouse style is spring type thing, so we want to remove that. Pull these clips off. Okay, the whole pipe just comes with it, that'll do. Then once these two are disconnected, just pull this out, give it a little bit of a wiggle, and it will just pop out. The fuel filter is free, and that looks a bit better. Looks like the same one. It's typical, isn't it? The one time you really actually want to film something and it doesn't film. I just emptied the fuel filter. It came out almost black. I mean, it is black. And I've been told that that could possibly be, I think it's like the tandem gasket, something like that, I don't actually know. But that could be blocking up the fuel lines, the injectors, and causing a rough start. So I'm not sure if it's supposed to be black. I don't think it is, because fresh diesel isn't. However, if you are doing this and you're going to change your fuel filter, you need a fresh tank of diesel. This is because, come down here, what are you doing up there? This is because if there's an airlock in the fuel system in a diesel car, it won't run. It just won't start. It needs to be bled out. So to save the hassle of doing all that, let's fill up the new filter through this hole until it's overflowing. Hopefully it'll start. And you can see the air bubbles rising out. There we go. Okay, we're definitely at the top. Okay, and it comes with new O-rings as well, and I think they go on the bottom. Seals in place. Let's get this in. And that's it. That's the fuel filter changed. Chances of it starting back up. So what you need to do is prime the pump a lot of times. Depending on how much fuel escaped, you're going to need to do it more times maybe than others. Basically put the key in the ignition, put the fuse back in first, don't forget that. And put the key in the ignition, prime it, turn it off, prime it, turn it off. And do that until you can't hear a squelching noise anymore.
12 seconds later.
Okay, I think the squelching noise has stopped. And if you go to start up the car and it still doesn't start, just keep doing this, don't give up. Make sure the fuel is completely topped up in the filter. This is where it starts to get worrying.
One eternity later.
Guys, it is getting dark. We're going to take it on a quick trip to fill up on fuel because I'm pretty low. We've just missed the rain as well for once, but that is a first. Really raining. What am I doing? I'm not going to know how it starts on a cold start until the morning, but on this trip I'm going to see if it's made any difference at all to the hesitation. It is really raining. Long-time viewers of the channel will know. What is going on? Where's this rain come from? It's had a hesitation for a long time. I think it was before the map. Might have been after the map, I don't know. But let's just get the car warmed up a little bit. Let's see if this fresh fuel filter has solved the issue. Oh, it feels loads smoother. Every time I do something to this car, I'm like, oh yeah, it feels so much smoother. Hell, bruv. Knobber in a Sainsbury's van pulls out on me. That's when I wish I had my GoPro on so you could see that. Anyway. I think it's still there. I'm gonna exaggerate my body so you guys can kind of see what I'm feeling. Oh, see, that picks up, man. If you don't change gear, it's fine and it picks up really nicely. But it's only when you change gear. Yep, oh, it's a little bit. Not a lot, but that was a little bit. Yeah, the hesitation is still there. It doesn't seem as much, but it is still there. My last resort is, I've been told by the detailing doctor, thank you for helping me out with these. I see your comments and they are helpful. So my last resort is to take the intake manifold back off and try to clean the valves. If that's built up with gunk, we can try and clean that. I think it's the valves. Guys, I'm gonna leave it here. I'm just gonna go fill up on fuel, and if there's any updates, I'll mention it in a future video. That was full wheel spin. Yeah, thank you for watching, guys. Follow me on Instagram, follow me on Facebook. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. I do want to buy some new wheels for this car. I want to get it stanced a bit better. Things will be coming for this car, but I'm just focusing on the GTI at the moment. I just want to get that series done, put the hybrid turbo on it, see what power we can make. Thank you very much for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one. See you later. Oh hey, you've caught me fundamental engine diesel. I'm currently learning about... off, I just can't think, I can't get it in my head about what I'm gonna say. As soon as I go to say it, it just goes out the other. See? Yeah. Oh hey, you've caught me learning about diesel enginemental functions. Enginemental. You try and say this is hard.